dealing with a nascent, growing industry like the biodiesel industry that has all this potential, but it's young, we're new on the scene, people aren't familiar with who we are. It's absolutely imperative that people on Capitol Hill, people in the federal agencies, understand what we are, understand what we do.
The U.S. biodiesel industry is a regulatory-driven industry.
There are going to be federal regulations that are issued that affect you. Sometimes you like them and sometimes you don't.
Over the last several years, it's become evident that the National Biodiesel Board, on behalf of the U.S. industry, has made a decision, a commitment to vigorously defend the interests of the industry.
Tax credit, the RFS 2, didn't just appear out of nowhere. It took an extraordinary amount of effort.
We have a technical team, we have a communications team, we have a state regulatory team, we have a sustainability team, all headquartered in Missouri. That allows us, again, to utilize our resources in an extremely efficient way. In Washington, D.C., we get to focus on federal policy.
I'm the head of the NBB's Washington, D.C. office, and I have the privilege to represent the U.S. biodiesel industry here in Washington, D.C. And in that capacity, I help not only do direct advocacy and lobbying here in Washington, D.C. and on Capitol Hill and with the administration, but coordinate the industry's efforts on a whole host of legislative, regulatory, and legal matters.
We represent the National Biodiesel Board with regard to tax legislation.
My role and focus for the biodiesel industry is working with the agricultural interests and programs that are important to the biodiesel industry. This includes working with the grower groups such as the American Soybean Association and working on programs that are enacted through the Farm Bill and administered by the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
My main job is to make sure that the regulatory aspect of the Environmental Protection Agency rules are put in place and benefit the industry accordingly.
As the head of the Global Trade Group at Mayer Brown, it falls to us to assist the National Biodiesel Board with any of their trade concerns that they have, and particularly trade disputes. We have trade lawyers not only in Washington and former trade officials in Washington, but we have essentially the same thing in Brussels, Beijing, and we're establishing the same sort of presence down in Sao Paulo and Brasilia.
The RFS 2 regulation was published on March 26, 2010. 3 days later, an oil industry trade association challenged it in federal court in the D.C. Circuit here in Washington. The case was fast-tracked. It was fully briefed by August. It was argued in September, and we got the decision in December. It was a favorable decision. The court rejected every challenge that the oil industry raised, upheld the rule in its entirety, and I think everybody on our side of the case was very pleased with the result.
Past year, we were fortunate that Congress came back to actually put together a huge tax bill that finally became final, that we've been working on for more than 18 months.
One of the things that I heard over and over was that members of Congress and Hill staffers, when they would go and meet with these other larger extenders, stakeholders, they would admonish these other stakeholders that they needed to be more like the biodiesel folks. And we were held out as an example of the way you can really move the needle and get things done.
What most people don't know is that through that process, in the last few hours before that bill was finalized, it finally dawned on people that they had no idea how they were going to make retroactive biodiesel payments for 2010, because here it is 2011. So within the time frame of about a half a day, our team, together with the Senate Finance Committee and the Ways and Means Committee, put together legislative language that will allow biodiesel producers to retroactively take those payments in a very efficient way. Without the NBB team in Washington, D.C., that never would have happened.
We're the first commercial-scale advanced biofuel that's available right now, and that's a direct result of our organization's efforts to make sure that our fuel qualifies under this RFS 2 program as biomass-based diesel, as an advanced biofuel, and that the feedstock that we make here, that we produce and use to make fuel here in the United States, qualifies for the program. And as a result, we're going to have a robust and growing market for our fuel going forward.
In my firm, we represent and we have reason to rub elbows with any number of dozens of national trade associations. And NBB has always sort of stood out as one of the most effective and certainly punches way above its weight class.
This last year and the struggles that we've seen over this last year hopefully have taught us that we have to constantly remain vigilant. This is an ongoing process that requires constant, vigorous attention.
We're already planning for what's going to happen after 2012, what's going to happen in 2013 and beyond for biodiesel producers. How big can we grow?
I have two young kids, and when I think about the future world that they live in, and when they think about what their father does, I'll be proud to tell them and for them to know that I worked to advance the biodiesel industry, an industry that improves our energy security, makes our world a better place, a cleaner place to live, and a healthier environment for all of us.